Welcome to Unscripted with Russo. I'm your host, Ashley Russo, president and executive producer of The Peak TV. For our podcast, we decided to explore the people behind the narratives. I'll introduce decision makers and influencers who are winners in their field and find out the intimate story behind their rise to success. All right, I am so excited today because I am being joined by my good friend Robyn, who owns Sauger Bistro and now Sauger Beans, both Hellertown, Bethlehem. You are amazing. You are such a good steward of our community. You cook food like you would get from your grandmother's kitchen. And now you're at this new venture. So I'm so happy to have you here, Robyn.
Thank you. Well, I'm happy to be here anytime I get to hang out with you, beautiful ladies and gentlemen here in the room. But
wow,
yeah.
we're so excited. You know, one of the things that happened for us at ASR is when we moved to Hellertown about a year and a half ago, you and I had met through various community events and I think some friends, mutual friends and from the town. And but you were just so great and welcoming us to town. So I want to thank you for that publicly because that really meant a lot to be on Main Street in Hellertown with you. And I know people love your food.
Thank you.
They do. They love you. They follow you around. My father-in-law, I'm going to tell you. Okay, now he's Italian from Brooklyn, 100%. Right? So he knows how to cook. He knows how to eat. And we took him to your restaurant.
Right. Yeah.
And ever since then, every time he comes here for anything, a doctor's appointment, to visit the grand, he says, oh, I'm craving that food, that Sagra, that food. Where's that onion soup? It's unbelievable. He tells everybody in New Jersey.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh, he does. He really, he might be your new poster child.
I love that. You know what? Those are the best recommendations, though, are from people who've eaten there. It's the best way to advertise and promote what you do is by everyone just singing its accolades.
And you can't make it up, right? Like people really, they love it, they connect with it, or they don't.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool. I want to learn more about you, the person, before we think of you, the restaurateur, or you, the roaster. Tell me a little bit about where you grew up and what your family was like.
Okay, so I grew up in Orange County, New York, in a small town called Chester, which is near Middletown, Goshen. I come from a very Italian family. My mother, they're not first generation. My grandparents came from Italy, but my parents were born here. And I have a brother and a sister. I'm the oldest.
Okay.
My father grows onions.
That's his business?
Lettuce and onions, yes.
Wow.
Yes.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so we were onion.
I can't say
farmers.
that I've ever met an onion farmer. I have met lots of farmers, but not onions.
Yeah,
I guess I never thought about where do onions come from.
Well, up in Orange County, they have black dirt. So there's only 3 areas in the United States that have black dirt. Orange County, New York, Salinas Valley, California, and Belle Glade, Florida. So the ground is very rich. The soil is dark. It's actually black. But onions and lettuce grew really well there. So my great-grandfather, when they immigrated from Italy, they came here, they started that business. And then my father and uncle took it to another level.
Now, how did they end up in that part of New York?
To be honest with you, I'm not really sure. I guess they just kept moving.
Okay.
Let's just keep
sort of
going.
like how people end up here in Pennsylvania.
Right.
They kept moving east or north or south or whatever. Okay. It's okay.
So where I live, they called it Garlic Hill because we were all Italian and we were all related. So so I grew up there, and I had a great family.
Now, did you work on the farm?
No.
You did not work on
No,
the
I
farm?
did not work on the farm.
Okay.
When I was probably 13, I would go and answer the phone. This is when they were very small. It grew into quite a large operation.
And did your mom work in the business as well?
No,
Was it
she stayed at home.
Okay.
She made the food. She ran around after us. We were very athletic. I played softball and soccer and basketball. In the summer, I played a bunch of softball leagues, and my brother the same. And my sister. So she was really there. It was true, me, I'm man. They make the money, and she took care of the family. But it's oddly enough, she raised my sister and I to be a wife and mother. Not really to be business
I was just going
women.
to say to you, so you had a rather conventional, traditional upbringing.
Yes.
But I would not describe you as a conventional, traditional person.
No, and my sister and I are both very driven businesswomen.
Now, when you look back and think now, even though you didn't, and you say you didn't work in the business, but now you're telling me you answered phones at 13. That's working in the business.
Right. Okay.
What did you pick up of that running a business entrepreneurial spirit do you think from your dad and that experience?
Well, I think just seeing that, seeing how you're always looking for new ways to grow your business, that was kind of instilled in us. And, that's the driving factor in my life is, emulating after, my father. My mother was the support system, but, it's when you see the family and how they are business-wise. And, and we had things growing up. It wasn't, I had nice cars, but we never felt like we were, I don't want to say wealthy, but we were still working class. We were not, my father worked from 5 a.m. until 8, 9 o'clock at night in the summer. In the winter, in the early years when I was a child, he worked winter jobs. Like he worked at the ski slope making snow. They were, he was working all over the place because they needed to continue to make money. But they just instilled that. My mother always told me, I would ask her, do you like to cook? If you like to eat, you like to cook. That's what she would tell me. So, if you want to make money, you got to work.
Like the necessity is the mother of invention concept.
Yes.
Like you got to do what you got to do.
Right.
Interesting. And when you were a kid, how would you describe, what was your relationship with your brother and sister? Are you the oldest? Are you a classic oldest child?
Yes, I'm the one that,
bossy?
set the rules. My sister's the one that broke all of them.
I love
the
it.
rules didn't apply to my brother.
Yeah, he's the baby?
He's the baby.
Okay, that's great.
But yeah, my sister and I were very close, and we're still close today. We talk all the time. In fact, my parents, every winter they go away for 6 weeks. And I talk with my mother every day.
Every day, yeah.
So now my mother's away in Aruba for 6 weeks. My sister's calling me all the time. I'm like, I can't wait for Mommy to get home.
Yeah.
Stop calling me.
I love it. Well, you can tell when it's that time. Right?
Yeah.
That's great.
But yeah, she and I, we did all kinds of things together growing up. We had a great time.
What about school? What was school like for you? What was high school like?
So high school, I went to very small public school, and then I went to Catholic school, it was a little bit larger. But everybody knew everybody. Everybody knew everybody's business.
You mean like the Lehigh Valley?
Yeah, it's even worse though. My graduating high school class had 69 students.
Wow.
That was it.
Wow.
That was it. So yeah, it was a very tight-knit community. My cousins and I all went to school together. And, but it was fun. We grew up in a small town, so obviously you really couldn't do too many things without someone seeing you.
Someone knew what you were up
yeah.
to. What was next? After you graduated high school, then what happened?
So, I started making cheesecakes in my parents' house when I was about 16. So that started my whole, oh wow, I can make money with food.
Interesting. Why cheesecakes?
My mother had a really great cheesecake recipe, and she knew family friends had a farmer's market, so then I would sell them there, and I was making fudge and, experimenting. I would babysit my brother and sister. That's when you could go out, and I was like 12, and you had a babysitter that was 12. Not that I would ever leave my kids alone.
With a 12-year-old?
But my mother had this Betty Crocker cookbook, the orange one. It was a binder,
I know it. Yeah.
and I would make coffee cake. And every time they would go away, there would be a coffee cake on the table when they came home that I made.
And what was the response from your parents, like the first time you did that? I mean, can you recall?
No, they were just like, oh, wow, that's really good. They were really proud. And
I mean, most people are happy if the kids don't, leave
burn the house down.
Yeah, the whole kitchen's trashed or whatever.
Well, that was later when we brought the keg into the house. They went away. We were in high school. So I did that, and then after high school, I actually did go to work for my father. I was his bookkeeper, and then I had a series of jobs. I got married when I was 23. My first husband went to West Point, which was not far from where I lived, so I met him. We got married. We moved to Alabama.
Alabama. What was that like?
It was scary.
I was gonna say that's like a culture shock. Huh?
It was, and I was,
How many Italian people were in
there
Alabama?
There were one.
Yeah.
It was very interesting. Coming from New York, going to Alabama the first time, it was a little scary. But we were there for 6 months, and then he was in flight school. He went to be a helicopter pilot. He got out, and we went to Hawaii.
Well, that's good.
So that was
a
yes,
good deal.
it was like a big. Wow.
I could see you in Hawaii.
It was fun. I had a great time.
What island?
We're on Oahu.
Okay.
And I had started teaching aerobics on base. I was going to be on. There was a show
Is this
called.
like step class time? Are we in?
Well, it wasn't step
think.
yet.
Okay.
Bodies in Motion was a show with Galad on the beach in Hawaii. I was supposed to be on that, but then I got pregnant. And I couldn't do it. I was having some problems in the beginning of my pregnancy with my daughter. So we were there 5 years. My daughter was born there. My son was born there. Then we moved here. Unfortunately, the marriage didn't work out. I had a series of jobs. I worked for Pepsi. I was always in sales. And I don't know how much of the nitty-gritty you want to go through.
You want to share, but it's interesting. So you come back from Hawaii,
right?
And this is now. Does he get stationed somewhere here? Was that
no? He got out. He got out of the Army, and then what I actually started. He was working for Pfizer. I started making because they would bring food to the doctor's offices. So I was making muffins and cookies and lunches and all in the house. Then I started making desserts for restaurants. I would bring my daughter to daycare or to whatever pre-K she was in. And my son would take a nap because she went in the afternoon, and I would bake. And then Steve would come home. He would take the kids. We'd have dinner. They'd play. And then at night, I would bake till 11 o'clock at night. I'd make desserts for...
And that's what he would bring to the offices?
No, he would bring that. But then I was baking for, it was the Newburgh Inn, the Candlelight before it was blue.
Sure.
Ludwig and Luigi's. I don't know if you remember. That was
that's before me.
That was where, it was over by the mall.
Okay.
Where else? I baked for the Manor House.
I remember
for
the
Dorothy and Sean
sure.
when they were working there. I baked for them.
But how are you getting these gigs? I mean, what's the connection?
Oh, I made a box of desserts and
drop
went
it,
around.
and they like it,
That was
and they
before email. And do you want to try my desserts? This is how much they cost. Bring a slice, and I would call every week to get an order. I would bake them. My daughter would come home from school. We would go deliver them.
I always try. Give me an approximate where we are year-wise. When is this happening?
This was 1992.
Okay, so I always try to give a frame of reference of what it was like to try to make plans without cell phones or research something without the internet.
Oh, yeah.
Or place an order, right? It's such a
everything was on the phone in person.
You can't imagine now, right? You can't even imagine. That's interesting.
I mean, now I was just telling you, my cell phone shattered, and they were
like,
we need it for 3 days. I'm like, I'm gonna have the shakes big time without my phone for 3 days.
Impossible. That's amazing. So you start baking, and there was some baking. You had baked the cheesecakes. You'd bake
cheesecakes, cake and layer cakes.
Why baking over cooking? Why was baking?
Because there was a market. That's where the market was.
Okay.
You didn't really cook dinners from your home back then, although that would have been a huge meal replacement thing. But there was a market there. Not all restaurants made their own desserts, and they liked homemade stuff. Now I was making it under the QT in my kitchen, but so that's where it started.
So it grew. You end up getting divorced.
Yes.
Okay.
And then I worked for a sourdough bread company. I ran a catering program for a supermarket in New Jersey. Then I went to work for Pepsi selling. And then I left Pepsi. I started to sell commercial insurance.
What?
Yeah, I know.
How is that the choice? Is it just necessity, or
it afforded me the opportunity to make the most money. And it was commercial insurance. It wasn't life insurance. So I went to businesses. And I tell you, you really learn how to sell when you sell a piece of paper that says, hey, if you have a claim, I hope we'll be there for you. I make no guarantees. No.
That's incredible.
I did that for 10 years.
Did you really?
I did that for 10
years. I never
years.
knew that.
Yeah.
What did you learn? What's the lesson you think that you took from that job in particular that you take with you into life today?
I think it taught me how to build relationships within the sales circle, I guess so to speak. How to cultivate a lead, how to maintain that lead, how to keep the lead, how to develop the relationship, and nurture that. So and I use that when I just hired somebody to do a little bit of selling for me, and I'm just going over, these are the, how to overcome the objection. You already need to know, kind of what people are going to say and what they're going to have, what objections they're going to have, and how do you overcome that.
It's amazing how you can take something that you learned in a field that has nothing to do with what
and
you're doing
now. And as boring
now,
as anything.
But now it's applying
to
what you're doing. Yeah. So let's fast forward a little bit. What happens after you're selling this commercial insurance? I mean, at what point do we jump into the world you're in now?
Well, so I was single at the time, and I met then my second husband,
Okay.
Jim, and Jim and I are best friends now.
Cheers, Jim.
We married. Here's to Jim.
We're cheersing you, Jim.
So anyway, Jim and I met. He was a chef down in Reading. We met, and he moved up here. And my girlfriend, we would cater. We were doing little catering jobs because he was a very good cook. He is a very good cook, and that led to us opening in Palmer Township Sagra Cooking, which was a demo kitchen. He entertained everybody, and we had specialty foods, all kinds of unique things. I was doing olive oil and vinegar tastings 15, 18 years ago.
Wow.
And then we decided we were renting. We wanted to buy a place, and we started to look, and then we found this building here in Hellertown, and it was already a restaurant. So we opened a restaurant.
That's
I learned a lot. I knew how to cook. I knew how to cater. And catering cooking, I did a lot of that. Catering cooking and restaurant line cooking were completely different. So I learned a lot about the restaurant business from Jim and from owning the restaurant. So I went from being a catering cook. Time moves forward. The marriage doesn't work out. I ended up buying him out of the restaurant, and I took over the kitchen. So then I was the cook. I was the head chef. I use that term loosely because I'm a chef in the sense of the word. I cook in a restaurant, but I'm a cook. You know, I learned from my mother, my grandmother. I did not go to school to professionally learn how to cook. I cook from my heart, and I cook what I like. I mean, I make food. Believe it, that I don't eat seafood at all, but I make seafood, and I make good seafood. But
That's interesting. But you know, you can feel it and taste it, right? Like it's the kind of food, like I said, that you would get, especially as an Italian. You know the kind of food you'd get from your grandparents,
right, exactly.
And that's what you feel when you go to Sagra. And even people who didn't have that experience, they can't quite tell maybe what they're connecting to. But it's interesting. What is the difference when you talk about catering food and kind of restaurant food? What's the difference?
So you come to me and say, I'm having a party for 50 people, and this is what I want, and you're just making bulk food, putting it in a pan, or, well, you're plating it if it's a served dinner. But you know exactly what you're doing at that given moment. You know how much food you need.
Like it's a prescribed menu,
Right.
amount of people.
Restaurant,
Okay.
you don't know who's going to come in, when they're going to come in. And
I
you have to
always
be
wonder that. I mean, how do you manage what you're keeping fresh and using it, and how do you do that?
Well, where I am here, we buy small quantities, and unfortunately, sometimes you'll come in and we're out, just because we don't make
I
huge
kind of like
amounts.
that, though. I'm going to tell you, as a consumer, I like when a restaurant tells me they're out of 2 dishes, and I'll tell you why. Because it means to me that you're buying fresh, you're buying small quantities, and what I'm going to about to eat isn't left over from 6 days ago.
Exactly.
That makes me
Yeah, and it should. Some people not
get
the
annoyed
case,
by it.
but
Yeah.
you know, I understand that. But sometimes we just run out. So, but you know, we tried to. So now I was in the kitchen, and then I had wanted to open a coffee shop. I'd started roasting my own coffee beans 3 years ago. Because at some point, this is jumping around the timeline, but Jim and I were going to sell the restaurant. My adult children now are living in Florida, and I wanted to move to be closer to them. And my daughter and son-in-law, they work at a coffee shop that's owned by their church, and it's in Winter Garden, Florida, and the place is just mobbed. I'm like, you know, that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
Because I like coffee. Coffee has no time limit. Anybody can drink coffee. Young kids drink coffee. Old people drink coffee. So then I figured I'm going to learn this business. I'll start roasting my own beans. So I bought a little roaster and studied, you know, from now YouTube and
Right.
anything on the internet, read. But so I was in the kitchen. Then I knew I was going to open this coffee shop.
Which has been a total labor of love.
Total labor of love.
Yeah.
And I hired some other people to work in the kitchen with me. They worked with me first. And now I stepped out of the kitchen last May because I knew in
Well,
a
they're
couple of
doing a
months I was
great
gonna
job.
go.
The food,
They are.
it
I'm
tastes
very happy
incredible.
with the staff.
Now, in the interim, I noted that for a while, and I might have the timeline off here, but I feel like you were a little ahead of the curve of like the box prepared food movement. Is that correct? Because
Probably, but yeah.
I order in to make,
Yes.
right? So it's all home. I mean, I'm a working mom. It's busy, but I need the food. I like to cook,
Right.
and I don't think I think I'm a decent cook, but I need the ingredients at my fingertips.
And I think those
always the
services
issue.
are awesome.
Yeah, but you offered a really cool service here for a while, if
I
I'm not
did.
mistaken, where people could order in their dinners.
And it was already prepared.
Yes.
Yes. And that worked out really well. I was doing really well with it, and it got to a point where it was a lot. And because coffee shop was getting closer and closer, I had to give something up.
Right, you can't do it all.
Yeah, I had to give something up because I used to do in-flight meals for a friend of mine who was a flight attendant. And those were all last minute specialty things. I would go shop for it and make them. It would take me 4 or 5 hours, but his client was very particular.
Wow.
And yeah,
That's
he's
interesting.
a big name person too. And I won't mention who it is. But I had to give that up as well. And it was hard to say no to these people, but it's like I had to do
But you had a dream and
something.
a passion.
Yeah, because the coffee shop, I want to have more of them. I don't want this to be the only one. I've created the model. So it's either corporate store or franchise or a mix of the two.
And one of the things that is unique about the coffee shop is you really are creating a space for people to gather.
Yes.
And you're serving food.
I am.
Real food, like
Yes.
locally sourced.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me about the model of Sauger Beans.
So
you're on the
Saug-
south side of Bethlehem, so you're in this sort of emerging community.
Yes.
There's a lot going on. You've got the hospital, you've got the arts center, you've got the Charter Arts High School, you've got, what am I missing?
Lehigh. They're building
Northampton
more.
Community College has, I mean, everything is sort of
It's very
gathering,
exciting
yeah.
on South Side.
But you're not, I mean, I like that you're called Sauger Beans and you're a roastery, but I don't really put you in that same category because you have a lot of other things going on there.
I do. So we have breakfast, lunch, dessert, pastries. We make breakfast sandwiches, bacon, egg, and cheese, those types of things. We have sandwiches that we prepare. Some of them have our famous cheese tort inside of them.
It is famous.
But we're looking to find things that people want to eat for lunch that they feel like they're getting something good and something fresh, because we make everything the night prior. Yeah, we just want to have a place where people can come in and say, hey, I want to sit down and have a cup of coffee, maybe have dessert at night. Because we have coffee, lattes. We also have tea. We brew tea. We have some interesting teas that come from berries and nuts and fruits, and so it's all natural.
You're also pretty sensitive to a lot of the dietary stuff going on. Like I noticed you've got gluten-free options, you've got vegan options.
We do.
And do you find that that's pretty well received? Is that a growing community in the Lehigh Valley?
It's a growing community. We saw it drop off a little bit when the students, when Lehigh was on break, but a lot of the young millennials are vegan. So we have vegan cheese. I have a baker that bakes vegan desserts for us. And I tell you, the desserts, you would never know that it was vegan. They're very rich and delicious. So it's a nice thing to offer. People are very excited.
It's been great. I mean, I have to tell you, we've been so excited to follow your journey. The coffee's amazing. My husband heard you were coming here today and immediately said, we need beans. He's like right away. So, I think the word is getting out. I want to ask you to go back in time for me a little bit and talk to me about being a working single mom. What was that time like, and what were some of the challenges that you faced?
So it was tough.
Yeah.
It was very tough. I can remember when I first started selling insurance, I had no money. I can remember one day, this is before the internet, you called the bank, you have 10 cents. I'm like, oh, that's nice. I have 10 cents in my checking account. And I had a daughter who's cheerleader and football and twirling and all the projects. And I can remember a couple times driving into my territory, which was Montgomery County at the time, in tears. Because it was just so much on my shoulders that it wasn't a good time. But, you work through it. My kids were great. We did all kinds of things together. We were all over the place. So I tried to make the best of what we had.
Yeah.
And, we would always go dinner and a movie was Saturday night for us when, because they would go to their father. Their father's a good father. So he was very involved in their life. So it wasn't like I got 2 children dumped on me and I was my sole responsibility. So, But
What do you think you took from that time? Like when you, and how do you think that it positively influenced the people that your kids are? Because you have 2 great kids, and those are big life events that have an influence on them. So what do you think the takeaway has been for you and for them?
well, I can tell you because both of my children have told me this, wow, Mom, I didn't realize all the things that you did. Because now they're meeting other people. My daughter's married, but they meet other people through college and through work, and they listen to the stories about their families, and they're like, "Wow, Mom, you were amazing. I can't believe you did all this stuff, and you taught us all good things." And so it comes. You don't realize
It comes
what you're
back.
doing
Yeah.
until 10 years later when you're like, "Oh wow. Maybe my kids aren't going to be in therapy. My mother killed
Or
me."
at least if they are, you're not the first thing on the list.
I'm number 5.
Right. That's always my goal. I'm like, just please don't let me be the first thing on the list. That's funny. Well, that's cool. I mean, I think that's a neat thing. I mean, when you look back, do you feel like a sense of accomplishment over where you've come?
Yeah, I do. And I even sometimes, like, when I hear my children speak, it's like, wow, you sound like me. That's amazing, and I see my daughter is very driven, and my son is as well, and their father's now is an entrepreneur as well. He owns his own business, so they see that model, and they're like, wow, I want to be like my parents.
Now, can your kids cook?
No.
Really?
My
That's
daughter
so
cooks a little bit.
interesting to me.
No kidding. I made
But
their baby food.
I'm going to tell you something. My father, as I told you, my father was a wonderful cook. And my husband, and I don't want to speak for the other children, but no one else really cooks. Let me just say that. And it's interesting how, you cook for them, but they don't learn how to do it.
My daughter is learning now. I don't think they ever really liked to do it. And I don't know if that was because we were just always so busy, because don't forget, when I was younger, we weren't running to pre-K, mommy and me, paint class, dance class, twirling. You just didn't have that type of lifestyle. But my daughter does cook now. In fact, when they were in Aruba, my parents go for 2 months in January. They have a condo there, and my daughter and son-in-law went, and she told my mother, "I just want you, let's cook. You show me how you make meatballs."
She's so smart. That's the best thing
Yeah.
to learn. And
Yeah.
it's funny because now my daughter's 14, and I learned a lot of cooking from my grandmother. And what I find she asks me about the most was this Gigi's recipe? Now, she was nanny to me, but she was Gigi to my kids, great grandma.
Yeah.
And that's what they ask about.
Yeah.
They want to know the history. They want to connect to the food. So that sort of leads me to what I want to talk to you about next, which is, what is the connection with food and people? And what do you feel when you cook for someone?
Well, I mean, it's just when someone eats something that you've made and they smile and you have these intense and amazing conversations sitting, and that's what I remember growing up, just sitting around the table at dinner, and it could be just us, it could be relatives coming over, but just that time that you share with people over a good meal.
It is an incredible thing. It is an incredible thing. And I find that I tend to like to cook for a lot of people. My biggest struggle when I got married and had kids was, how do I cook for 4 people? I'm from this big family. You always cook for 15 people, right? But it gives you this sense of community.
Yes.
And your restaurant has really provided that for Hellertown. Do you have perspective a little bit on Sagra at this point?
Well,
and
first
what
off,
it means for this
Sagra in
community?
Italian means festival.
Yeah.
And I came up with that name because I thought, wow, that's pretty cool. A festival is a celebration with family and friends, and what a great place to come and celebrate with family and friends. So that's why I called it Sagra. But I always wanted a go-to restaurant. I wanted a place where people felt like they could come 2-3 times a week, and we do have that type of clientele. If you want a burger, you can have a burger. Or if you want, I don't know, scallops, you could get scallops, or a really good cut of steak.
My favorite thing that you offer, I'm just going to tell you, not from a food standpoint, but from a practical standpoint, is that you have half-size salads that are reasonably priced. Because I'm somebody that no matter what I order, I'd like to have a salad. and the salad world has gotten out of control. I just want to give
Well,
my 2
everywhere you
cents.
go to a restaurant, a lot of times they don't have small
They
salads.
don't.
Or they have, it's a house salad and everything else is a large
But why
one.
is that? You obviously have the ingredients in the back. You can't make me a little, like, bread plates.
Yeah,
I don't get it.
I don't know.
But
guess,
I love that about you. I love that about Sagra. I think that it's such a nice thing that no matter what you're in the mood for, but it's not the same as going to, a diner or a pub that offer a lot of different types of food. But you do have variety,
We do.
and everybody can feel. But it feels like home cooking. Every single thing feels like something you made in the kitchen.
That's good, and that's
I
what
love
we want.
that.
Yeah.
I love it. So what is next for Sauger Beans?
Okay, so Sauger Beans, we're just launching 2 different things. We're launching our coffee subscription service where you can order coffee and we'll ship it to your house or to whomever you wish. And a drink and snack box, which is a collection of a lot of vegan, gluten-free, healthier snacks. And some things aren't going to be that healthy, but fun things to eat. Coffee, and that would be something that I actually geared towards the students. So people at Lehigh, for the parents to send to their student, but also if it would be great for any type of client gift, swag bag, client incentive.
So many things.
Yeah, there's a lot of things. And I just listed a couple items on Amazon.
That's cool.
So that's exciting, yeah.
Who knows where that's going to go?
Yeah.
And you can private label, correct? So you could take your beans and private label them as gifts for people.
Yeah, so put your own label on it. You send me your artwork or I'll design something for you and we put it on the coffee. We can roast however you would want it.
I like that.
I also want to get
Can we do something like perked up with the peak?
We can.
Perk up with the peak?
Yeah, I'll
I don't
work on
know.
that.
So- all right, I like it.
I'd like to see my beans. I'm going to put them now in 2 locations in the Lehigh Valley, but I'm looking for more placements to sell the bags and also locations to actually brew the beans. Because that part of the business I really want to grow. Plus, we'll start to look for additional locations and, like I said, possibly franchising.
When you are learning about the roastery side of the business, is it a lot like learning how to make wine or how to make beer or something like that? I mean, is the roasting very specific in what you can get out of it as a product? Feels like there's an art to it a little bit.
It's an art and a science. So what I do is I go to where I import the beans from, their website, and I see what they have in-house because it's an agricultural product. So sometimes they have and sometimes they run out. And what I'm envisioning I want from my coffee, what kind of tasting notes I want out of it and what I'm going to do with it. And then they send me samples. I roast it up and taste it. And then I decide, okay, I like this or I don't like this. And if I like it, then we figure out how I'm going to use it. I'm going to do a single origin. I'm going to do a blend. So our house roast is called Have a Nice Day. And it's a blend of beans, Arabica, and Robusta. And I chose this Robusta because it has more caffeine. So my coffee, while it's not, I do roast some of the beans on the dark side. It has a nice punch to it, but you get that from the caffeine that'll last throughout the day instead of that harshness sometimes that you get from a really dark roasted coffee. So it's full-bodied and it's smooth and it's something you can drink every day. So I have 4 roasts. I have an espresso roast that's half and half, Robusta, half Arabica. I call that I'll Sleep When I'm Dead. I have a half calf. So half caffeinated, half
That's good.
regular. I call I'll Be There For You. I say when decaf isn't enough and regular coffee is just too much, we'll be there for
That's
you.
perfect.
And then decaf is called Lie to Me. I saw one of my Facebook friends had posted something about coffee. Lie to me today about how much we're going to get done. And thought,
That's a good name.
that's a good name for a decaf.
It's amazing how much the naming and the marketing piece is so important.
It's very cool.
Right?
And they're all Bon Jovi songs.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about Bon Jovi for
Okay.
a second.
Let's talk about Bon
Okay.
Jovi.
Tell me about your love of Bon Jovi and your love of 80s.
So I've been a Bon Jovi fan forever.
Since the beginning.
Since the beginning. My children are Bon Jovi fans. I've seen them probably about 20 times. I've taken both of my children to several concerts. But just most recently, my very best friend, Sherry Casilio, surprised me with front row seats to see Bon Jovi at the PP&L Center here in Allentown. So I was very obnoxious that night. I stuck that front row seat ticket in everybody's face. Look at, I'm in the front row. You're back there. But yeah, and she had a great time watching me jumping up and down, screaming and dancing.
Was it a great life experience?
It was a bucket list thing.
Have you met him?
No, next. I'm hoping he comes to the coffee shop
we need to get that.
Because I named all these.
Are you tweeting him or anything?
You know what? I made a video because I was an LLS Woman of the Year candidate last year looking for backstage passes. So I made a video like they do when they're asking a movie star to go to the Marine Ball prom. But they obviously have more clout than I do. Someday
we got to work on
him.
that, though, Robyn. We got to work on that. You know, you mentioned LLS, the Leukemia Lymphoma Society, and you were one of the Women of the Year. You raised a lot of money. You're very good to this community. Where did that sense of community come from? Is that something that you learned through your family? Is it something you learned through life? Why do you give back?
I think it's very important to give back. You know, not everybody's as fortunate as you are, and I am not a greedy person. I feel that if I can do something for somebody, that makes me feel good. And I want to feel good about my life. I want to make an impact on someone's life, whether it's through raising some money to help cure an illness, or, you know, giving some positive words to somebody, mentoring a young girl maybe to reach for her goals and her dreams and let them know that anything is possible.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's such an important part of who you are, and I think it like really weaves you into kind of the fabric of this community in so many ways. Because anyone I talk to about you and Sagra, and now Sauger Beans, lights up. It's a universal reaction to you. In case you're not aware of that, it really truly is.
Yeah.
All right, so I want to ask you a little bit about your tattoos, your love of Harleys.
Okay.
What's your free time like? What do you like to do in your free time?
So in the 5 minutes I have free right now, I have a motorcycle, but I have a Triumph.
Okay.
So we will forgive you for the Harley comment.
Okay, you have a we love Triumphs here.
Yeah.
I don't know. You don't know anything. This is totally Greek to me.
It's so freeing. I never thought that I would love to ride my own motorcycle, but it is just amazing. And then I don't know why, when I turned 50, I just went tattoo crazy.
And what was your first tattoo?
My very first tattoo, I had a little butterfly done 20-something years ago.
Okay.
When Cher was getting them done. That was my first one. I have a butterfly. I've got a couple on my wrists. I have a heart on my calf here. I've got one
On your side.
that
You've
hurt.
got,
I've got a little dragon over here,
And
so
what is it about? What is it about the tattoos?
I don't know. It just was cool. I actually do have one that's very important on my shoulder blade. It's a compass, and it says, "Never lose your way." And I never want to lose my way. I think that's...
And you seem to be making your own way. I mean, you're never going to lose your way because you're always making your way. What's next? I mean, I hate to ask you what's next, because Sauger Beans, I feel like, is just in its infancy.
It is.
But I know you have plans, so I want to hear what are you up to? What's next?
So really what my goal is to open more coffee shops. I'd like to eventually open them in Florida. So I will be near my children. I would eventually like to take the roaster, I might leave it in that facility, but have just a roastery and cupping room, whether it's here or in Florida. So I can develop that craft, because it's very exciting. It's something, so coffee is like wine, and the beans, the growing region, the elevation that they're grown at, how
the soil that they're, right? It's all
how
matters,
they're cultivated, how they're dried out, the process once they're pulled off of the tree, all affects what happens in the roast. And you can roast and I can roast, and we can take the same bean and it'll taste 2 different ways. What I like about it is, though, I get the bean, and 2 days later I'm drinking it. You have wine, you gotta wait a long time. You might be waiting 10 years before you drink that wine.
Yeah.
But
speaking of wine, you brought me wine today, which is very nice. I usually provide
and
the
this
wine,
is
but
very
thank you.
good.
So it is good. What are we
It's
drinking?
Chronic Cellars. I actually joined their wine club.
I love it.
I
It's
love the
delicious.
label. I love the label, so I bought a couple of bottles.
See, going to prove that names and marketing matter.
It does. It makes a huge difference.
Yes.
And I like to do a lot with Petite Syrah. I'm very fond. I used to be a big Pinot drinker, but I love
like
Petite Syrah
too.
Sauvignon Blanc and Petite Syrah.
What is a life lesson that you have learned that you would want other young entrepreneurs or people starting out in their life to know? A life lesson.
I think once you have a dream, you have to do whatever you can to pursue that dream. I know with this coffee shop, I mean, this was a couple of years in the working, and I went through the staff of all the different things that we were going to do and how we were going to do it. This isn't something that I just came up with yesterday. I spent 2.5 years thinking through every detail, getting to this point of where we are, and I had a vision of where I wanted it to go. So everything is a build-up to where it is now and where it's to go in the future. But I just think, just don't let money, don't let people put you down or tell you you can or you can't. If you really believe in it, you'll find a way. You might not succeed every time, because I have had some failures, but the failures make you stronger, and I think the failures make you more successful, because you're like, well, I'm not going to do that again. I know I'm not going to do.
You learn from it.
You learn from it.
Yeah, absolutely. Robyn, it's been so great having you here, but before you go, we're going to do a little rapid fire, just random questions.
Okay.
What is a job that you could see yourself having that you've never had? Like if you could be in a different career, what would it be?
I think I'd be a flight attendant.
Really?
Yeah. I love that. I always wanted to be one when I was younger.
I love that. Maybe you can talk to your friend.
Yes.
That would be good. If you could have 3 people to dinner, dead or alive, who would they be?
Okay. I would want to have dinner again with my grandmother. Definitely Bon Jovi. And who would be the third person?
Well, it could be just your grandmother and
Well,
Bon Jovi.
you know what, though? I really, I miss, my grandfather.
Yeah.
I think,
Your grandparents.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think my grandparents would be on the top of my list, too.
Yeah.
It's amazing. I always say when someone posts or talks about a grandparent passing away, that grandparents really are angels on earth. And you don't really totally realize that until they're gone.
Yeah.
And there's something about a grandparent that's just an amazing, it's such a gift to have a close relationship with your grandparents. All right, if you were to travel anywhere in the world, what would be the top of the list of places you could go?
I would love to take a motorcycle tour through Europe.
Well, Europe is a big place. Anywhere specific? Just all of it?
No, I would take 2 or 3 weeks and start in London and just go.
Oh, go.
I actually am taking a trip through the Southwest.
Good for you.
It's now July 4th. I was going to go in September, but I moved it up to July 4th. So I'm really excited about that. The Grand Canyon,
I've never
all
done
the
that.
national parks, Utah, Colorado, Nevada.
Beautiful.
So, yeah.
That's going to be great.
Yeah.
All right, now this is a little bit of a loaded question for you, but if you could have one final meal, what would be your choice?
Eggplant.
You love the eggplant.
I love eggplant.
You make a unique dish. So I should just tell people who have never been to Sagra where you put eggplant and chicken parm
On top of
together.
one another. Yes.
And it's outrageous.
Yes. So my mom, we were there. It was in the summer. She was making chicken cutlets, and she made eggplant, and she made some pasta. And we're all sitting there. I'm like, I'm gonna take this chicken. I'm gonna put some eggplant on top of it. My sister's like, man, that looks good. I'm like, it is good.
And now it's a staple. People
now
come
it
in
is
and
a
ask
staple,
for it.
yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Robyn, it's been so good having you here. Thank you
for
so
having me,
much.
too.
Thank you for all that you do for our community. We love Sauger Bistro in Hellertown. Sagra Roastery, south side of Bethlehem. Bethlehem should not be missed. It's a great place. We can't wait to see what you do next.
Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Glad to be
Robyn.
here.